back to another episode of jPlay. Originally I was planning to do a playthrough of Police Precinct. It's right behind me. Hopefully you can see it well because of the reflections. But Police Precinct is not a light game, and it, let's say, requires a little bit of preparation, and I want to do that right, and that's why I decided to go for another game in between. Definitely there will be a playthrough of Police Precinct coming. But for now I decided to go for Dungeon Fighter. Many thanks for the Heidelberger Spieleverlag who provided me this copy here in order to do my playthrough here. It's absolutely fun game. It's also cooperative. It's more or less a party game. It's very light in respect to Police Precinct. There's no traitor mechanism like in Police Precinct, but still it's absolutely fun. As usual, I will have a look inside the box. I will explain you the rules, of course, and then afterwards I will do a playthrough of it. It's a bit difficult sometimes for Dungeon Fighter, as you have to roll your dice a little bit odd from time to time. So there are monsters who require you, for example, to throw the dice below your leg, for example, with your eyes closed. You have to blow from your hand and so on. And it's difficult for me to record that as I'm alone, apparently. So what I would expect from you is when I say I close my eyes when rolling the die, you have to believe me that I will do that. I think you will notice that from the result of my poor dice rolling. So yeah, hopefully that's fine with you. In the end, I really only want to show you how the game works, the mechanics, how it works out thematically. And don't want really to give you how it would be really playing out at a party or really playing with four players and so on. So I think it would be okay for you to get this first impression for this game. Yeah, let's have a look inside the box. Hopefully you will enjoy it, and until then, bye bye. This is the main playing board for Dungeon Fighter. This is also referred to as the target board, and it's being used for determining if you hit a monster or not. It's pretty easy. Normally you take a die, for example this green die here, then you flip it or bounce it once on the playing surface before the target board, and then where it comes to land, this amount of damage is being dealt. In this case, everything was right. It landed with a majority of the die on the number 4. So basically, we would do 4 hit points to the monster we would be fighting. This die here also shows the special symbol. In this case, we would have enabled the green ability of the hero that have thrown the dice. I will come to you in a second. As I already mentioned, sometimes you have to roll the die other than just using your main hand. Then, for example, there are cards who require you that you would roll your die from your left hand when you are a right-hander, apparently. Sometimes you have to roll the die with your eyes closed. Sometimes you have to blow it from your hand, and so on. There are very, very fun, cool little mechanics in this game who makes it really fun to play with your friends and your family, apparently. Additionally, there's this nice tower they are delivering with, or that ships with Dungeon Fighter. It's basically only used for keeping your all resource. For example, the gold coins here, very thick plastic gold coins, not too bad. Then for each monster level we have one tray here. For example, the red most difficult monsters would be here, then blue, I think yellow and green. And on the bottom floor there are the cards for the equipment you might be purchasing throughout the game. These are the 4 monster decks. They go from volume 1 to volume 4 and more or less representing the difficulty of each of these monsters. For example, if you take a volume 1 green monster, this says this annoying drunkard has 5 hit points, inflict 1 damage, does not have any special throwing requirement, so this is empty, but also does not have any penny in his pocket. Whereas on the red side of the board here, for example, this is the Vocal Vampire. Nice, I love this artwork. This has now, or he has 15 hit points, inflicts 4 damage, but also brings you some very nice gold coins. So you would, when you defeat this guy, you would get yourself or for your team 4 golds. But also there is a special requirements here. on the bottom, and it says whenever you missed it, and I explain what a miss really is, or I think I more or less showed it to you, then the vampire immediately inflicts 4 damage to your character. So that's definitely a lot stronger character. This is the jest token. This keeps your gold. You start the game with 2 golds, and also holds your bonus dice. And the bonus dice are very important later in the game, especially when defeating stronger character like this vocal vampire, for example. And there's basically only way to defeat these guys later on in the game if you have some of these bonus dice on your treasure chest. This is the monster hit point sheet, and it's just used to reflect how much damage you have dealt to the actual encounter. So if we take this example of the vocal vampire again, so this guy would start off with 15 hit points. So let's put the red guy over here. And if we would inflict then our 4 damages from the example I showed you a few seconds ago, then we would just move this guy down to 11 hit points, and then we would know how much hit point this guy still has left. That's easy as that. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 possible ends bosses, basically, or boss creatures at the end of the game. I don't want to show these to you yet at this point in time, because to leave you a little bit of a surprise, but sometimes they can be really a pest. Each fantasy game needs some heroes, of course, and these are some of the heroes that ships with Dungeon Fighter. We have the lovely Lady Mary here, we have this Brockenstork, this nice little dwarf, I think, Randolph the Wizard, and many, many more. I think for our game or playthrough later on, I will just go for a 2-player game. It's a bit easier, I guess, and we'll choose 2 characters randomly. Here you see some of the special abilities. I don't want to explain those now in detail. I think I will do that once I have rolled those numbers. Here are some references which items or weapons each character can carry. For example, this Lady Mary here can only carry 1 weapon but 2 items, whereas this Brockenstork has 1 weapon and 2 armor. And I think the same goes for Brockenstork, who also is allowed to carry 1 weapon here. A very cool mechanism of Dungeon Fighter is these scar tokens here. So whenever a hero would faint in a fight, so his life points would be reduced to 0, and when you defeat that monster afterwards, then each hero will be revived, basically. But this does not happen without a scar. So anytime a hero faints, he or she would gain a scar token and can be choose where to put this scar. For example, if you would put this scar on this field, then Lady Mary would have 3 less hit points because these are covered now, and this special ability can no longer be used. Whenever a hero would take the 3rd scar, then this hero is more or less dead and would be flipped on the other side. So in memoriam hero, so would be an angel hero with some dice and this nice target board here as well. And again, I simply love this artwork. It's very, very cool. Additionally, there are some special tokens. This is for who of the heroes will be the leader. Then there are some special ability tokens, for example this toad here. So whenever this special ability is activated, we would place this toad on the creature, on the encounter card, and this would be then weakened for the rest of the encounter. But also I will explain those later when we come to that. And as we cannot play a dungeon crawler game without a dungeon, these are the cards that will represent our dungeon later on. So these are 2-sided dungeon cards basically. So we have 4 of these boss dungeon tiles and 2 straight dungeon tiles. But again, on the boss tiles on the reverse side, there are also standard dungeon tiles. So you can get a pretty flexible restructuring of your dungeon each time. So normally you would draw 3 of these cards basically, so you have 3 levels for each dungeon, and when you manage to go through all these 3 levels, then you would be allowed to face the boss enemy at the end of this dungeon. These were more or less all the components that comes with Dungeon Fighter. Again, I cannot say too much that I really like this, what comes with Dungeon Fighter. Again, of course, it's very cool artwork, it's very cute, it's definitely not a serious dungeon crawler, you might have noticed that already, but still, it's a lot of fun. So, I think I will now prepare the setup for our party. I think, as I mentioned already before, I will draw 2 heroes for this game, and then I will draw the according monsters, but of course we don't get to know these monsters until we actually face those guys. I will equip the chest token, treasure chest token. I will pick an end boss, basically a boss monster, also secretly of course, and then I think in the next video we can get started. These are our 2 starting heroes, or the only heroes for Dungeon Fighter. So this is Aristide, I think he's a singer, musician, bard I guess, and this is Goldfinger. It's absolutely cool. Not Gerd Fröbe, but still, yeah, I think also related to some gold here. And these are the 3, or each hero comes with 3 special abilities, and I think I will explain those to you right now. This here is a piercing attack, and this more or less speaks for itself. It finds the weak spot of the enemy and gives you 2 additional hit points. Again, the die, your hit die, needs to land on the target board, and this has to be a hit instead of a miss, and the eyesight of the die has to show. In this case, the blue special ability would have been activated. This icon over here, this is the sworn enemy. So whenever this guy is fighting a creature with this icon here, for example here, the Black King. Apparently this is not a creature we will face in this game, because I got this from the remaining deck. Then every time it hits that and would roll this die result, for example, the green die with the eye, this special ability would have been activated and would inflict 4 additional hit points. This is the enchanting memory, and you can more or less place then when you roll this result here, so the red die with the eye side up, then this would be activated, and then we could enchant the creature. We could discard 1 gold or pay 1 gold, and then this would allow us to discard or to ignore any special ability of that creature, which can be pretty powerful. So this is the pickpocket special ability, and also this speaks for itself, I guess. So blue die with the eye up, you can get 2 golds from the reserve basically, and just can put it on your chest board. In this case, you don't have to hit the target board, so this is pretty important. This is also the piercing attack. I already explained that to you, but for this guy, this would activate with a green die. And this is very nice. This is the 5-finger discount, and whenever this is activated, then you can get a card, an equipment card from the reserve, put it face down on your need to player board, and after the encounter in the maintenance phase, then we could flip that, and then we would give these cards, all the stolen cards from this encounter, among the party. This is our starting equipment, so we start off with 2 gold, our 3 normal hero dice we would have available anytime in an encounter, and 1 of this bonus die. Remember, whenever you roll this bonus die and use it, then it goes back to the reserve. So you have really to be careful if you really want to go for a bonus die. And this is our first floor of our dungeon. We will start outside of the dungeon, so this represents where our crew is. Apparently, so anytime in each movement phase we would step 1 step further into the dungeon, then we would have an encounter phase, for example, or drawing an enemy card. Then we do this encounter, and then we would go through a maintenance phase, and so on it goes. There are special rooms within the dungeon. For example, this is a treasure chamber, so you gain this bonus one in the maintenance phase. So once you resolve the actual encounter, these are normal rooms, for example. This is a dangerous room, and show you, hey, you have to close your eyes when rolling the dice. This is a shop, so in the maintenance phase you can do some shopping. This is the second floor of our dungeon, so we would only have a treasure chamber here and a shop and nothing else. And this is the boss dungeon, where we can, let's say, also find a treasure chamber. Here's a healing fountain. I forgot to mention that here as well. Of course, this is also a healing fountain, so can be very nice to heal yourself. Then before you actually encounter the boss, you can still go for some shopping, and this is very, very necessary. And yeah, again, in the next movement phase, you would then go into the room of the boss, then you would flip it, and then we know what we have to fight. Yeah, these were all the preparations I had to take for the setup for Dungeon Fight. I made Aristide our leader for this game. Leader is not the same as the starting player, as the starting player may change, and this depends on who rolled the last of these hero dice. So then the next player would be the starting player, but the leader will always stay the same, and this is very important when it comes to certain decisions. Who will draw some cards from the deck, who will decide which hero gets which card, and so on. This hero token has two sides, so this normal side here, and then this defeated side, so a bit crumpled, this crown here, and this only shows you that you, for example, once you can gain yourself new hero dice if the monster still is not defeated, and can give you some bonuses at the end of each encounter when, for example, this crown is still on the good side. Yeah, these were all my preparations and some very basic explanations of the parts that shipping with Dungeon Fighter. I think really I explain all the other rules, like how a fight really goes when I start playing this, because it's not very difficult, and I think this would make sense rather than give you a real thorough explanation of how the gameplay works. Hope you enjoyed it so far. Hope to see you soon when I start my actual playthrough of Dungeon Fighter, and until then, bye bye.